Welcome back to another My Hero Academia anime versus manga comparison video, breaking down season 7 episode 8 titled 2 Flashfires, sharing the same title as chapter 351, referencing both Dabi and Shoto. Now the episode begins with an added shot of the police station. Gori, the police officer, walks up to the cell as Garaki begins to tell Gori how him and All For One sought out warped seeds born within the world worthy of being All For One's vessels, as we see both Dabi and Shoto. After the opening, the anime adds in Shoto quickly using his Flashfire fist, PHOSPHOR, before the flashback begins. In the manga, he is actually in his PHOSPHOR stance, but doesn't activate PHOSPHOR till after Dabi melts the All Might statue. After this, we get more of Dabi's backstory, showing what happened to him after he burned himself on Shoto Peak. Here, the flashback starts by extending the scene of when Toya sets himself on fire, showing Toya crying because Endeavor didn't show up to see Toya's growth with his quirk. When Toya sets himself on fire, it's actually reanimated and doesn't reuse the animation from season 6. As Toya says to himself that he hasn't shown Endeavor anything yet, the anime adds in a still of Endeavor, which this is a neat addition as this is how Endeavor looks from Toya's point of view, having this stern look to him. During the flashback, we see that All For One was the one to save Toya's life on Shoto Peak, taking him to a facility where Dr. Garaki ended up doing countless amount of surgeries, saving his life. Exploring the facility, he discovers that there are a bunch of other children in the facility as well. It's revealed that when Toya woke up from his coma, 3 whole years had passed by, shocking him. He tells Dr. Sunny that he has to go home, and Sunny tells him that he can't, as everyone here is now Toya's new family. Toya tries to cope with the situation as he figures that Endeavor hadn't visited him because he was just busy doing hero work, and that he still needed to say sorry to Endeavor and his family for saying and doing some horrible things to them. All For One, through a monitor, interrupts Toya and tells him that he won't be able to show Endeavor what he can do with his quirk or become a hero, as his body after being burnt was extremely hard to repair. Pieces of him had to be replaced with regenerative tissue, causing Toya to look like someone completely different. He would never be the same again. He won't be able to use his quirk like before, as all of his organs were damaged, on top of his senses and ability to feel pain being dulled. All For One tells Toya that they failed, triggering Toya as he was looked at as a failure by his father because of his quirk, and then replaced by Shoto, making him feel like a complete failure entirely. He then offers Toya to join the family, allowing him to be raised by All For One, as he could potentially restore Dabi's flames to their full glory. Toya tells All For One to shut up as he doesn't want to be trained by anyone unless it's Endeavor. He then gets into it with Sunny and sets the facility on fire, leading to Toya escaping the facility that same day. Now, in the backstory, the anime does change a few things, such as after Toya wakes up, the anime doesn't adapt the panel, showing what I believe is the rest of his room. When Toya goes to tell Sunny that he has to go home, the anime adds in a shot of the hallway leading into the room with Sunny and Toya. The anime also doesn't adapt the panel, showing All For One's monitor when Toya tells him to shut up. The entire scene of Toya getting into it with Sunny is actually an anime only scene adapting the volume 35 extra page depicting what led to Toya setting the facility on fire. As in the page, it states that Toya got into an argument with Haruki Sun and unleashed fire before fleeing the facility. What the anime doesn't cover is that in the same extra page, it also states that the facility actually didn't burn down, and the fire was quickly put out. Garaki, fearing that his wicked deeds would be exposed, blamed Sunny for accidentally starting the fire, thus protecting the facility's dark secret. And since no one died and the story never made the news, heroes and the authorities were none the wiser about the doctor's hidden atrocities. If the fire had been a bigger deal, the world wouldn't have ended up in its current state. Continuing on, Garaki tells Gori that it was too late for All For One to exploit Toya, as his obsession with Endeavor was just too much. He then reveals that the kids at the facility were spares in case anything happened to Shigaraki. The facility was a seedbed of ferocity and hatred, vessels for All For One. But Dabi, as one of those spare vessels, was a failed experiment, as he didn't buy what they were selling. Here, the anime adds a scene of Toya roaming the city after escaping the facility. Garaki continues and states that they let Dabi run loose because after he woke up from the coma, he wasn't supposed to live for more than a month. That's why years later, Garaki was surprised to see Dabi still alive. In Kyushu during the Pro Hero arc, Dabi confronts Garaki knowing that Garaki was the one that kept him alive all those years back, and upon looking at the high-end Nomu, realizes that Garaki was going to do something along the lines of what was done to the Nomu to him. After stating that Kyushu would be the perfect place for his funeral, he looks at Garaki, shaking him to his core, as Garaki understood that Dabi's body was heading towards death, but Dabi held on to life through the flames of resentment towards Endeavor. Back to Dabi and Shoto, Dabi tells Shoto that he actually did come home once. Dabi says that he thought things would have changed, but after 3 years, he witnessed the same thing, Endeavor still being the same, coming to the conclusion that his life had been pointless and his family left him behind in their past. Dabi completely burns his arm as he explains to Shoto that he never felt pain from his body falling to pieces when he was honing his flames to be stronger the next time they met. He studied Endeavor's moves via watching him through a screen, learning how to further hone his quirk. The anime here changes a few things as the flashback to Toya arriving home doesn't adapt the panel of him running and instead replaces it with Dabi at the front gate of his home. Once inside the home, the anime adds Toya looking at Endeavor training Shoto from the door in the hallway. The panel showing Dabi's feet landing doesn't get adapted either. The anime adds an entire scene of Toya in an abandoned building, watching from a laptop of all of Endeavor's moves, studying them and learning how to hone his power via watching Endeavor, thus replacing the panel of laptops, phones, and TVs. Shoto then realizes that Dabi this whole time was expecting to die from the beginning. Dabi then states that since the day Toya died, Dabi was born, as we see Dabi praying over a shrine of Toya. He then tells Shoto that he will burn everything that Endeavor holds dear, thus leaving proof of his birth. Shoto of course won't let this happen. After this, we learn that the ultimate move, Flashfire Fist, is a move that's defined as the peak manifestation of fire achieved by a young Endeavor. Once he mastered the move, he came to understand his own limitations, and that fire produced a mirage that warped the view he'd set his eyes on, referencing the way he treated both his sons, Toya and Shoto, as one was considered a failed creation, while the other was viewed as the perfect creation. After this, the anime adds a scene of Dabi in the abandoned building, learning to raise his flame's temperature on his own, turning his fire blue, surpassing his limits thanks to his body no longer being able to feel pain. Dabi begins the fight with unleashing his Flashfire Fist Hell Spider onto Shoto and the other heroes below. The same move Endeavor used against the high-end Nomu back in Kyushu. Ida points out that Dabi's Hell Spider is bigger and sloppier than Endeavor's. Shoto, finally ready to unleash his Hellfire Fist, is then blitzed by Dabi's insane speed as he appears behind him, as Hell Spider was meant to be a distraction. Dabi punches Shoto, sending him flying into the ground. Dabi taunts Shoto about being in UA surrounded by civilians, knowing that he is the son of Endeavor and the brother of Dabi. He lunges at Shoto, hitting him with a flurry of flamed punches, and Dabi once again talks down to Shoto, stating that he was the boy born with everything but never tried to be his full potential, depending on everyone else, calling him a half-baked puppet that will never amount to anything, as he kicks Shoto into the air and hits Shoto with a jet burn, launching him into a nearby building. Shoto, through the smoke, agrees with him as he was full of doubt and is a half-baked dummy, as Dabi notices that Shoto neutralized his heat upon being hit with jet burn. Shoto states that he's glad to know that Dabi was noticing him all this time, and that he turned Flashfire into something more, a move made to stop Dabi. The anime then adds a shot of Dabi and Shoto staring at each other. In a flashback to before the war, we see Shoto telling Endeavor that it's our duty to stop Dabi as they are doing this together. Shoto tells Dabi that Endeavor was crazy, their family was hopeless, but despite all that, Dabi was the one who chose to burn all those people to death. Here, the anime doesn't adapt the panel showing Shoto and Dabi back to back when talking about their family, which I think was a missed opportunity because this panel really showed the duality of their situation and how they both went down completely different paths despite going through the same exact thing at home with Endeavor. In the flashback to the dorm dorms, the anime removes the panel showing the Heights Alliance dorms building. Here, Shoto tells Deku that he wanted to face off against Dabi, and that Dabi's existence is his family's crime to bear. In order for him to reach the heights he's aiming for, he can't run from facing his brother. He then shows Deku the new move he created to get over that height, taking the essence of Flashfire and using his right and left sides at the same time with his heart at the center. The hot and cold blood circulating through his body, bringing the equilibrium to both sides, mixing them together, creating cold flames. Flames that when touched, the heat can't be felt. He's doing the opposite of what Endeavor wanted in terms of his ice, canceling out Shoto's inner heat. He's doing all of this so he can accept the reason he was born into this family, as he tells Deku that this is his power, thanking him, referencing what Deku told him back during the sports festival about Shoto's quirk being his own and not Endeavor's. Shoto then comes down, unleashing his new ultimate move, Flashfire Fist PHOSPHOR, hitting Dabi with Icebound Crash Cold Flames Pale Blade, sending Dabi back. The details are a little hard to notice, but in the volume 36 extra page, while in his phosphor state, Shoto's hair on the right is frozen up, while his left is blown around by hot air. Dabi catches himself with his flames as he looks at Shoto, stating that Shoto was the perfect one to face him, as he has a body able to withstand scorching heat and the power to cool his flames. The anime also adds in a shot of Shoto in his phosphor state. Shoto loses his phosphor state as Dabi lands on the ground, stating that warped rails will never cross straight paths, this being the limit of superhuman society, which perfectly describes the both of them, and that Shoto needs to die for their sake. Dabi unleashes his flames into the ground as they shoot off wildly out from underneath the earth. Endeavor's sidekicks take the hit for Shoto, protecting him as they believe in him. Shoto once again begins to refocus his phosphor state as he reflects on his past, burdened by his family's past, feeling left behind by the others, but his friends were always there waiting for him. Class 1A never left him behind and helped him overcome his burdens and traumas. Here, during his reflection, we get two added shots of Shoto and Dabi. Shoto continues to store up his power as the anime adds in Dabi unleashing flames that surrounds Shoto. Shoto releases his phosphor and with tremendous speed hits Dabi in the stomach, unleashing his great glacial Eiger. Young versions of Toya and Shoto are shown as we get added shots of the city, Dabi's flames, and the All Might statue all frozen. The episode ends with Dabi falling onto Shoto's shoulder, defeated. Now, this episode adapted a total of 3 chapters, them being chapters 350, 351, and 352. This episode was absolutely perfect from beginning to end, that really highlighted why the Todoroki family are some of the best written characters in the series. The animation and direction this episode was absolutely perfect on top of it all, and I legit can't wait for what's in store next. Let me know your thoughts on the episode. Did they cook with the changes? Let me know everything in the comment section below. With that said, if you enjoyed the video, then be sure to Detroit smash that like button down below, and if you're new to the Kitoroki channel, then be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on so that you don't miss any My Hero Academia Season 7 breakdowns. With that said, I'll see you all in the next one.